Everyone, welcome back. Today, we're going to explore something truly fascinating about the human mind in this explainer. We're looking at the modern paradox of choice and identity. You know what's kind of strange? We have more opportunities, more freedom, and literally more access to information than at any other point in human history. And yet, so many people just feel completely lost. I don't mean physically lost. I mean internally. It's like we're moving through life without actually knowing where we're going. And honestly, I think one of the biggest reasons for this is pretty simple. Humans were just never designed to handle this many choices. You see, evolution is a very slow process. For hundreds of thousands of years, our brains were wired for survival in environments with very few variables. But now we're navigating this infinite landscape of possibilities, but we're doing it with a brain built for a much, much simpler time. Which brings us to our first point, the modern illusion of choice and the very real danger of having too many options. I mean, think about it. If you open up YouTube right now, you are immediately bombarded with thousands of different careers, thousands of lifestyles, thousands of conflicting opinions on exactly how you should be spending your precious time on this earth. We have this illusion that infinite options make us freer, but psychologically, it usually just paralyzes us. You scroll for 5 minutes, right? And one person is telling you, start a business, escape the matrix. The next one says, no, travel the world, collect experiences. Then another insists, you need to quit social media and live completely off the grid. And yet another person passionately argues that you absolutely must wake up at 5 a.m., take an ice bath, and drink some weird green liquid while journaling under the moon. It's just an exhausting barrage of constant optimization. And after taking all this in, your brain just quietly melts. We end up experiencing this very real psychological phenomenon known as decision fatigue. Our cognitive resources are limited. Processing all these hypothetical life paths, it drains the exact same mental energy that we need to actually live our daily lives. Because suddenly, you don't know what you actually want versus what the internet wants you to want. And that right there, that is the essence of modern confusion. This leads us perfectly into part 2, the trap of comparison. Look back at a simpler past. For the vast majority of human history, life was just easier to navigate. People usually followed their family, their village, their local environment, their traditions. The path was pretty heavily laid out for them from day one. And yeah, while that definitely lacked our modern freedom, it provided immense psychological safety and certainty. But today, the village is the entire globe. Imagine a 19-year-old opening Instagram. Suddenly and relentlessly, they're comparing their life with millionaires, athletes, creators, young tech entrepreneurs, supermodels, spiritually enlightened monks. Oh, and of course that guy living in Bali teaching productivity while sipping coconut water. You're no longer just comparing yourself to the most successful person in your hometown. You're comparing your everyday, mundane reality to the top 0.001% of the entire world's curated highlights. And because of this, subconsciously, your brain starts constantly asking a truly terrifying question. Am I behind? And honestly, that question quietly destroys a lot of people. It creates this perpetual sense of inadequacy, this nagging feeling that no matter what you're doing, the clock is ticking, and somehow you're already too late to your own life. Let's move to section 3, noise and highlight reels, and the identity confusion that comes with them. You see, this constant comparison creates a literal fracture in your identity. You stop building your own life based on your own intrinsic values, and you start emotionally reacting to everyone else's external validation. Essentially, you become a mirror. You're just reflecting other people's ambitions instead of generating your own light. And social media, well, it makes this infinitely worse. We're now constantly exposed to these highlight reels. But you have to keep in mind, nobody is beautifully uploading their confusion or their late-night self-doubt. They aren't posting their loneliness or their absolute failures. People only show the polished results. So as modern humans, we're trapped in this vicious cycle of comparing our chaotic, messy, real life to someone else's carefully edited reality. And after enough of that comparison, something incredibly dangerous happens. You actually lose connection with yourself, your real interests, your genuine curiosity, your natural pace. When you're constantly bombarded by the noise of what you think you should be doing, that quiet whisper of what you actually want to do gets completely drowned out. You basically become totally disconnected from your own internal compass. So now your mind becomes incredibly noisy and fragmented, right? Like one day you desperately want to become a filmmaker. Then the next day you pivot entirely and decide you're going to be a tech entrepreneur. Then a fitness influencer. And then suddenly, after watching one really compelling documentary late at night, you decide you want to disappear into the mountains and become a spiritually enlightened monk. The modern brain is just overloaded. There's too much information, too many options, too many identities available to try on, and it leaves us completely paralyzed in the dressing room of life. And honestly, I think this is exactly why so many people feel so incredibly restless right now. It's not because we're weak, it's not a lack of willpower, it's because modern life is constantly pulling our attention in 1,000 different directions. The economist Herbert Simon famously noted that a wealth of information creates a poverty of attention. And he hit the nail on the head. Our attention is absolutely bankrupted by the constant scrolling. It leaves us feeling hollow, fragmented, and just exhausted. Which brings us to section 4, thinking versus living, and the dangerous trap of just consuming ideas. You see, the scary part of this modern era is that you can literally spend years consuming ideas, watching video essays, reading self-help books, listening to endless podcasts, without ever actually building a life. We make the mistake of confusing the consumption of knowledge with the acquisition of real character. Because here's the thing, thinking about life, well, it feels very similar to living it, but they are completely different things. Thinking is safe, right? It happens in this nice, controlled environment inside your head where you never actually fail. But living is messy, it's risky, it's wildly unpredictable. When we sit around endlessly theorizing about our perfect path, we're usually just hiding from the vulnerability of actually stepping out into the arena. At some point, every single one of us has to stop endlessly searching and start choosing. Choosing a direction, choosing specific values, choosing what actually matters to you, choosing what really deserves your limited, precious energy. And listen, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to do it consciously. The paradox of choice isn't solved by finding the absolute perfect option. It's solved by having the courage to just commit to one. Which brings us to part 5, clarity comes through movement, prioritizing action over thinking. Because the truth is, clarity rarely appears first. Most of us are operating under this completely flawed assumption. We think to ourselves, okay, I'll take action once I fully figure out my life. Once I have the perfect 10-year plan mapped out, then I'll execute. But it doesn't work that way. Clarity comes after movement, not before. You literally cannot think your way into a new life. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking. You only truly understand yourself by building, trying, failing, learning, creating, and actually living. Trust me, the feedback loop of reality is so much more informative than the echo chamber of your own mind. And honestly, I think a lot of people are secretly waiting for life to just suddenly reveal their purpose to them, like it's a shooting star or something. They're waiting for their destiny, their perfect path to just miraculously fall into their lap so they can finally begin. But life rarely, if ever, works like that. Purpose isn't found, it's forged. Meaning is usually built slowly through repetition and paying attention. As you can see broken down here, it's basically a very simple 3-step process. Step 1, you move towards something. Step 2, you stay with it even when it gets really boring or difficult. And step 3, you grow through it. Over time, that path slowly starts feeling like your own. It becomes your destiny simply because you put the actual work in to make it yours. Which leads to our final section, number 6, finding stillness in the noise, and finally stopping the drift. So, maybe the goal isn't to have life perfectly figured out at 20 or even 30 years old. Maybe the goal is simply this, to stop drifting unconsciously through the algorithms, to choose something meaningful, to give your energy to it fully, and to build yourself slowly, deliberately through the entire process. Because as modern humans, we really don't need more information. We are absolutely drowning in information while starving for wisdom. I think what we truly need is more stillness, more self-awareness, and far fewer controlling voices trying to dictate our direction. We desperately need to carve out moments of absolute silence, just to let the heavy sediment of our incredibly busy minds finally settle. And maybe that's exactly why so many people feel lost today. Not because they don't have a path, but because the world just became too loud for them to hear themselves clearly anymore. So I'll leave you with this question. What is one voice you can quiet today so you can finally start hearing your own? Thanks for exploring this with me. See you in the next explainer.